was my idea. It always was. Every Mother's Day since 1987, I had been the one to get up before sunrise, start the coffee, pull out my mother's cast iron skillet, the one she gave me when I moved to Georgia, and begin. The glazed ham went in at 6. The cornbread batter got mixed while the kitchen was still cool and quiet. Collard greens, macaroni and cheese, deviled eggs lined up on the counter like little soldiers waiting for orders. My daughter had called 2 weeks before and said, "Mama, we want to come down for Mother's Day." All of us. All of us meant her, her husband, and their 2 boys. It also meant I would be cooking. We both knew it without saying it. I'd love that, I told her. And I meant it then. My name is Loretta. I am 67 years old. I live in a 2-story house in Savannah, Georgia, that my late husband Wendell and I bought in 1994, the year our youngest started kindergarten. Wendell passed 4 years ago this coming August. Heart attack. Quick, the doctor said, as if that was supposed to help. I have lived alone since then, in this house that still smells like him sometimes, in the back hallway near his old workshop when the weather changes. I'm not a woman who asks for much. I never have been. My daughter is 41. Her husband, my son-in-law, is 44. They live in Charlotte, about 4 hours away. They have a nice house, 2 cars. The boys are in good schools. From the outside, everything looks fine. From the inside, I had been noticing things for about a year. It started small, the way these things do. A phone call where my daughter mentioned they were a little stretched that month. A text asking if I could help with one of the boys' school fees. "Just this once, Mama. We'll pay you back." I sent the money because I had it, and because she was my child, and because that is what mothers do. Then there was the car. My son-in-law's transmission went out in February, and the repair was going to cost close to $4,000. My daughter called on a Tuesday afternoon, not asking exactly, but circling around it the way she always did when she wanted something, talking about how hard things had been, how stressed her husband was, how it was affecting the boys. I sent 3,000. I told her it was a gift, not a loan, because I did not want to spend the next 2 years waiting to be paid back. She said, "You are the best mother in the world." I remember thinking, even as I hung up the phone, that something felt off. Not about the money. I had the money. I was careful my whole life, worked 31 years as a registered nurse, saved what I could, paid off this house. What felt off was something in her voice. A kind of relief that went beyond just the car. Like I had passed a test I did not know I was taking. But I let it go, because she was my daughter, and I did not want to be the kind of mother who keeps score. Mother's Day morning, I was up at 5:45. The ham was already in the oven. I had set the table the night before with Wendell's mother's china, the cream-coloured set with the gold rim that only comes out for occasions. I had picked flowers from the backyard, just some yellow roses and a few stems of whatever that purple thing is that grows along the fence. Wendell's mother planted it years ago, and I never learned its name, but it comes back every spring without asking. They arrived just after noon. My daughter came through the door first, and she hugged me, and she smelled like that perfume she has worn since her 20s. And for a moment, everything felt the way it was supposed to feel. The boys ran past me to find the dog. I have a beagle named Chester, and my son-in-law came in behind, gave me a one-armed hug, said the house smelled amazing. We sat down to eat around 1 o'clock. I had made enough food for 12 people. There were 6 of us at the table, counting Chester watching hopefully from the corner. I had gotten up before the sun to make this meal. My feet hurt, the way they always do now, an old injury from years of hospital shifts. And I had been standing in that kitchen since before any of them had opened their eyes. Nobody said thank you. I don't mean nobody remembered to say it at the right moment. I mean, it was not said at all. Not by my daughter, who served herself a large portion of the macaroni and then asked if there was hot sauce without looking up. Not by my son-in-law, who ate quickly, the way men do when they are preoccupied. The boys were boys. I don't expect much from 9 and 11-year-olds. But my daughter was 41 years old, and she sat at my mother's china, eating my food, in my house on Mother's Day, and did not say thank you. Halfway through the meal, she and her husband started talking to each other about something, a neighborhood association issue back in Charlotte, something about a fence permit, and the conversation moved away from me completely. the way a river just shifts course sometimes after a rain. I sat at the head of my own table and ate quietly and watched them talk about a fence. After dinner, my son-in-law went to watch something in the living room. The boys were outside with Chester. My daughter and I were in the kitchen. And I thought maybe now, in the quiet of it, she would say something real. Ask how I was doing, how I had been sleeping, whether I missed her father, something. She poured herself a glass of sweet tea and leaned against the counter, and she said, "Mama, we've been thinking." I turned from the sink. "About the house," she said. I waited. "It's a lot for you to maintain by yourself, all this square footage, the yard, and with everything going on with your knee." She trailed off the way she does when she's trying to make something her idea sound like it is actually your idea. I recognized it. I had watched her do it since she was 17. "What are you suggesting?" I asked. "We were thinking it might make sense for us to relocate here, to Savannah, to be closer to you, help you out more." She smiled when she said it. Warm, careful smile. "The boys could go to school here. We could rent out our place in Charlotte, and we could help you with the house, the upkeep. It would be good for everyone." I looked at her. She looked back at me. "And where would you live?" I asked, though I already knew. "Here, Mama. We'd live here with you. There's plenty of space. There is plenty of space. There is plenty of space. 4 bedrooms, Wendell's workshop, a big backyard, a house that has been paid off for 6 years." "Let me think about it," I said. She nodded like I had said yes. That night, after they left, they drove back to Charlotte same day, which struck me later as strange if they were so worried about me being alone in a big house. I sat in the kitchen with Chester on my feet, and I thought about the conversation. I turned it over the way you turn a stone, looking for what is underneath. Something was wrong. I could not name it yet, but I knew the shape of it. In 31 years of nursing, you learn to read a room. You learn when people are telling you something and when they are preparing you for something else entirely. I could not sleep that night. Around 2 in the morning, I got up, made chamomile tea, and sat at the kitchen table in the dark. Chester came and sat beside me. "Good dog." I was thinking about the phrase my daughter had used, "help you with the upkeep." I'd not asked for help with upkeep. My knee was sore, yes, but I had a lawn service. I had a handyman I called when things needed fixing. I was not incapacitated. I was 67, not 97, and there was a difference. I was also thinking about money. Specifically, I was thinking about the $3,000 in February, and the school fees the fall before that, and the time last summer when my son-in-law's cousin was visiting, and they'd all gone out, and my daughter had called me from the restaurant to ask if she could use my credit card number, just this once, because her card had been declined, and she would transfer the money in the morning. She had not transferred the money. Not the next morning, not ever. It was $412. I had not mentioned it. I told myself it did not matter. It mattered. I went upstairs and opened my laptop. I was not sure what I was looking for. I opened my banking app out of habit, just to look, the way I do sometimes when I cannot sleep. Everything was fine. Both accounts, the checking and the savings, normal. Then I noticed a missed voicemail from my bank. From 3 days ago. I had not listened to it because I did not recognize the number at first and thought it was a scam. I played it. It was from a woman in the customer service department. She said there had been an inquiry on my account. Someone had called in requesting information about adding a joint account holder. The bank had flagged it because I had not made the request myself. They were calling to confirm whether this was something I had authorized. I sat there in the dark with my phone in my hand. I played the voicemail again. Someone had called my bank. Someone who had enough of my personal information, my account number, my address, probably my social security number, to make a credible inquiry about adding themselves to my account. Whoever it was, they had not succeeded. The bank had flagged it and called me, but they had tried. My hands were steady. That surprised me. I expected them to shake. I thought about my daughter's voice on the phone the morning after I sent the $3,000. That relief that went too deep. I thought about help you with the upkeep. I thought about the way my son-in-law had not quite met my eyes at dinner. I did not cry. I want to be clear about that. There was a moment where I thought I might, sitting in the dark kitchen with Chester pressing his warm weight against my leg. But the tears did not come. What came instead was something quieter and colder and more useful. It was clarity. I had been a nurse. In 31 years, I had watched families in crisis reveal themselves completely, who they really were, what they were capable of, who they showed up for, and who they abandoned. I had held the hands of old women whose children contested their wills before they were even buried. I had seen the soft, reasonable faces people make when they want something and believe they deserve it. I knew this face. I had been looking at it across my own dinner table. The next morning, I called my bank when they opened at 9. I spoke to a manager and reported the unauthorized inquiry. I asked them to flag my account and require additional verification for any changes going forward. I asked about the process for reviewing recent activity. The manager was kind, patient. She explained everything clearly, and I took notes in the little spiral notebook I keep by the phone. After I hung up, I called an attorney, a woman I'd actually known years ago. Her mother had been one of my patients, who now practiced elder law here in Savannah. I had not spoken to her in probably 15 years, but I remembered she was sharp and fair. Her office said she had an opening Thursday morning. Thursday morning, I sat across from her in a bright office on Drayton Street and told her everything: the money over the past year, the conversation on Mother's Day, the bank inquiry. She listened without interrupting, which I appreciated. When I finished, she folded her hands on the desk and said, "Loretta, I'm glad you came in when you did." She explained several things to me that I want to share, because I think they matter. She explained that what had happened with my bank account, someone attempting to add themselves as a joint account holder without my consent, was not just a boundary violation. Depending on intent, it could constitute financial elder abuse under Georgia law. She said the word abuse carefully, watching my face as she said it. I did not flinch. I had already said it to myself, alone in my kitchen. She told me about steps I could take. We talked about updating my state documents, reviewing my will, making sure my power of attorney, the legal document giving someone authority to act on my behalf if I became incapacitated, was assigned to someone I trusted completely. Not my daughter, not my son-in-law. I have a cousin in Memphis, my father's niece's daughter, who is steady and honest and has no interest in my money because she has built her own life well. We're not spoken in a few years the way cousins drift, but I trusted her. The attorney said that was enough. I left her office with a list of things to do and a follow-up appointment for the following week. I drove home through the squares. Savannah has all these old squares, little parks laid out in the original city grid, and in May they are heavy with Spanish moss and the smell of something blooming, and I have driven past them so many times I usually do not see them anymore. That morning I saw them. I drove slowly. I was not angry. I want to say that carefully because I think people expect anger in a story like this, and anger is clean. Anger is easy to describe. What I felt was something older and sadder and more complicated. It was grief, partly. Grief for the daughter I thought I had, or the relationship I thought we had, or maybe just the particular story I had been telling myself about my family for 41 years. It was also, underneath that, something that felt almost like relief, because now I knew, and knowing, even when what you know is terrible, is better than not knowing. It is the not knowing that makes you feel like you are losing your mind. I did not call my daughter that week. She called me on Wednesday, chatty, asking how I was, mentioning something funny one of the boys had done. Normal. Warm. The voice I had known her whole life. I was pleasant. I asked about the boys. I said I had been meaning to call her but had been busy. I did not mention the bank. I did not mention the attorney. I did not mention the attorney. I did not mention any of it. I had learned in nursing that you do not show a difficult patient that you know what they are doing before you are ready. You gather information, you prepare. You act from a position of knowledge, not from a position of hurt. Over the following 3 weeks, I did several things. I met with the attorney again, and we finalized an updated power of attorney, designating my cousin in Memphis. We also reviewed my will. My daughter was still in it. She is my child. She will always be my child. But the terms were restructured so that nothing could be accessed or claimed while I was living without my explicit consent, documented and witnessed. I called my financial advisor, and we moved a significant portion of my savings into an account structure that required multiple layers of verification for any changes. I reviewed every recurring payment I had ever set up, every automatic transfer, every place where my account information had been shared. I changed passwords. I changed security questions. I set up alerts for any transaction over $50. I also, quietly, called a realtor friend of mine, not to sell the house, just to talk, just to understand my options, what the house was worth now, what I could do if I ever decided to simplify. She told me. I wrote it down. I did not feel vengeful during any of this. I want to be honest about that too. Revenge assumes the other person is paying attention, and the whole point was that I was done performing for people who were not paying attention. I was just taking care of myself. For what felt like the first time in a long time, I was putting my own name first on the list. On a Saturday evening in early June, my daughter called again. This time she came around to it faster. She said they had started looking at neighborhoods in Savannah, that her husband had talked to his company about remote work, and it had gone well, that they were excited. She asked if she could bring the family down the following month to start getting a feel for the area. I said, I'd like to talk to you first, just the two of us. Can you come down one weekend without the boys? Silence, brief but real. Of course, she said. Is everything okay? Everything is fine, I said. I just want to talk. She came the next Saturday, alone. She was nervous from the moment she walked in, though she tried not to show it. She sat at the kitchen table, the same table I had sat at alone at 2 in the morning, and she held her coffee cup in both hands. I sat across from her and I told her what I knew. I told her about the bank inquiry. I told her I had spoken with an attorney. I told her about the changes I had made to my accounts and my estate documents. I said it all clearly, without raising my voice, because I had rehearsed it in my head, and then out loud one night in the bathroom mirror, until the words came out the way I needed them to. She went pale. Then she started to cry. I let her cry. I did not rush to comfort her, because I had learned the hard way that sometimes comfort is how we skip over the things that need to be said. She said it was her husband's idea. She said she had not known about the bank call. She said she was sorry. She was so sorry. She did not know it had gone that far. I looked at my daughter's face, the face I had watched since she was born, and I believed some of what she said, and I was not sure about the rest, and I understood that I might never know exactly where the line was. That was hard. That was the hardest part. I said, I need you to understand something. This house is my home. My savings are mine. I earned them over 31 years of getting up before dawn and driving to that hospital and standing on my feet all day, and I did it partly for you, yes, and also for myself, and for your father's memory, and for the life I want to have, for however many years I have left. I said, I love you. That is not the question. The question is whether I can trust you, and right now I don't know the answer to that. She wiped her face. She nodded. I want us to be able to get there, I said, but it is going to take time, and is going to require honesty that I have not been getting. She nodded again. She asked what she could do. I told her the first thing was to go home and tell her husband that whatever plan they had been making was over, not paused, over. And then I told her the second thing, which was that if she needed money, she needed to ask me directly, not through maneuvers, not through pressure, not by moving into my house and waiting for me to soften. Ask directly. Tell me the truth about what it was for, and let me decide. She left around 4 that afternoon. I stood at the front door and watched her car pull out, and then I closed the door and stood in the hallway for a long moment. Chester came and pressed his head against my knee. I put my hand on his warm ear and I thought about Wendell. I thought about what he would say if he were here. Wendell was a quiet man. He did not say much, but when he said something, it was usually exactly right. I think he would have put his hand on my shoulder and said, You did good, Loretta. Maybe that. Something like that. I went out to the backyard. The roses were blooming now, all of them, the yellow ones and a couple deep red ones I had planted, the spring after he died, because I needed something to tend to. The purple thing along the fence was full and soft in the late afternoon light. I sat in the old lawn chair that needs replacing and probably will not get replaced for another 3 years, and I breathed the evening air and I thought about what comes next. I am not sure my daughter and I will be what we were. I am not sure we ever were what I thought we were. That is a grief I am carrying, and I expect I will carry it for a long time, the way you carry any loss, not every moment, but always somewhere. But I am also 67 years old, and I am in this house that I own, and my accounts are in order, and my name is on my own life, in a way it has not felt in years. I have a follow-up appointment with my attorney next week. I have a standing lunch with a friend from church every other Thursday. I have been thinking for the first time in a very long time about taking a trip. Somewhere I have never been. Wendell and I always talked about going to Portugal. He never got there. Maybe I will go for both of us. I made myself dinner that night, nothing elaborate. Scrambled eggs and toast and half an avocado. I ate at the table with Chester at my feet and the kitchen window open just enough to let the evening in. My grandsons don't know any of this. They are 9 and 11 and they love their grandmother, and I love them. And that is a separate thing, a clean thing, and I intend to keep it that way. My daughter texted that night. It said, "I'm so sorry, Mama. I mean it. I read it." I put my phone face down on the counter. I would respond when I was ready, when I had figured out what was true and what I could carry and what I needed to set down. That is the thing about getting older that nobody warns you about. You spend your whole life building your career, your home, your family, the story you tell yourself about who you are and who loves you. And then one day you sit in your own kitchen in the middle of the night and you realize that some of what you built was real and some of it was a story you needed to believe. And the job now is to figure out which is which. I am still figuring it out. But I am doing it in my own house, in my own name, with the window open just the way I like it. That is enough. For now, that is more than enough. I have thought a lot about how I got here, not to the kitchen table at 2 in the morning, not to the attorney's office on Drayton Street, but to the place where I did not see it coming. That is the part that stays with me. I am not a naive woman. I raised 2 children, worked 31 years in a hospital where I watched people at their worst and their best, buried a husband, kept a house, managed my own finances without anyone's help. And still I missed it. Not because I was foolish, because I loved her. And love, when it goes deep enough, has a way of filling in the gaps with the version of things you need to believe. That is not weakness. I have had to tell myself that more than once. That is just what it means to be a mother. But here is what I have come to understand, sitting with this the way you sit, with anything that changes you. The choices my daughter and her husband made did not happen in a single moment. They were built slowly, over months, maybe longer. Each small request a test, each time I said yes without question, a signal that the door was open a little wider. I do not say that to blame myself. I say it because it is true, and the truth is the only thing worth holding on to now. There is a kind of cause and effect in how we treat people over time, not punishment, not fate, just the simple, quiet logic of actions and their weight. Every time I sent money without asking real questions, I was teaching something. Every time I absorbed the discomfort of being taken for granted and said nothing, I was teaching something. And every time my daughter let her husband circle closer to what was mine without stopping him, she was teaching me something too. We were all, in our own ways, building toward that Mother's Day table, toward that voicemail from the bank. What I chose to do next was the only thing I had real control over. Not how it started, not what they planned, only what I did when I finally knew. I chose to be honest, with my attorney, with my bank, with myself, and eventually with my daughter, face to face across the kitchen table without raised voices or theatrics. Just the truth laid out plainly. That took more out of me than any confrontation would have, because plain truth requires you to stay steady when every part of you wants to collapse or explode. I chose to protect myself without cutting off my love for her entirely. Those are 2 different things. I used to think they had to come together, that if I drew a boundary, it meant I'd stopped caring. I know now that is not right. You can love someone clearly with your eyes open and still refuse to be harmed by them. That is not coldness. That is the most honest form of love I know. And I chose, when it was all said and done, to keep living. The trip to Portugal, the roses in the backyard, Chester on my feet at night, the window open just enough. These are not small things. They are the whole point. Loretta still has work to do. So do I. But I am doing it on my own terms now. And that, after 67 years, is worth everything it cost to get here.